Police here, got frontline police members all here trying to bring some sort of order to this chaotic situation.
I know you're on the move, both you and Richie, and it's not easy. We're going to try to stay with you as long as possible. I can hear you coughing there, so I'm hoping that that's not from some chemicals or something that's been released. I hope you're okay. We can see there that
there's objects being thrown again, Mike. So once again, everyone's got to keep their wits about them in this situation. But yeah, police obviously looking for their own welfare. We're being asked to move back, and we're going to follow that instruction and move to further away from those discharges. But as I say, the police, all right, more objects being thrown at police. Looks like bottles, and as I say, we've got, as I say, they're dominating the inbound lanes of the Westgate at this stage, Mike. The police are still predominantly on these city-bound lanes, trying to maintain their ranks, try to protect themselves by staying together as well. But it is just a chaotic situation here, Mike. It's such a sad day for any Melburnian, any Victorian, to see this sort of behaviour on the streets of the city we love.
Yeah, well said, Cam. It is a very sad day indeed. If there is a point to this protest, it's long been lost in anger, vitriol, violence and intimidation. Stay with us as long as you can. Just as so you know, we are seeing live shots from the chopper right now, obviously, of these crowd moving back towards the city.
Rich.
Yeah, please make sure you're safe, mate. This crowd is moving back towards the city through people who are stopped in the traffic and probably wondering what the heck is going on, as you say, to our beautiful city. Why is there so much anger? What are these people trying to achieve? Just take us through what you're seeing now, Cam.
Yeah, well, as I say, the police are now trying to form themselves in some sort of lines here. As I said, they've now crossed over onto the inbound lanes of the Westgate. Where they're heading to next is anyone's guess. But the police, once again, there doesn't seem to be any real serious attempt to contain them. It just seems like it's an observation approach at this stage, not trying to get anywhere near them other than just keeping on top of where they are and following their movements.
So, Cam, if correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like they've gone around them again. The protesters have simply just walked around them, and police are chasing them again.
Well, they've come in. Mike, you're right. Well, they've come round through the traffic that's been banked up on the outbound lanes here. There's still quite a large number of this mob on the other side of the freeway, which traffic's now moving. Funnily enough, outbound. But there is a significant number of this mob that are on the other side. And here we go. We've got some action here against some people on this side of the freeway. They're being moved on. I had some objects with them too, which police have got to be really mindful of. Obviously, we've just seen so often how often objects, bottles, those sorts of things are being thrown at people. And we're going to watch this situation here.
Please make sure.
Well, so they have done that, Mike.
Won't you step out a shot so you can face what's happening? I'll ask Richie to push in if he feels safe enough to do. And then that way you don't have your back to what's happening. Obviously, they're forming a line across that's the inbound lanes of the Westgate.
This is the servo inbound, inbound on the Westgate, Mike. So that's where we're at the moment. But I guess what's making this situation even more dangerous now is that we have traffic heading out of town now, and we've got a lot of these people on the other side of that road, and as we've seen all day and yesterday, there's no respect for law or no respect for conventions here in terms of whether people would need to stop for them or whether they're just going to dart in and out of traffic as they take it. But as we see, looks like things have come to a halt further up. The police here are stationary. I can see some of this mob that are now slowly walking towards the city again. So that's where it's at the moment, Mike.
Yeah, so it continues, Cam. We're going to stay with you. I know it's difficult for you to get a full sense of what's going on when they're walking around you and you're trying to stay safe as well. You've been on this for a while. You haven't seen any arrests so far, which kind of seems remarkable to me.
Yeah, it is. I haven't seen any. I've asked for confirmation of any in the broader operation that's taken place today, Mike. I haven't had any confirmation that any arrests have been made, which, as you say, is remarkable given what's taken place. But as I say, it does seem like police aren't confronting this mob. They're not getting up. They're not trying to contain them into a particular area. They're just watching and also just monitoring what's going on. But as I say, they're in strong numbers here right now. They're not moving forward. They're maintaining their spot here. And
meanwhile, we're seeing,
as far as I can tell from here.
Yeah, it's hard for you to see, but from the chopper shots that we've got going out live to us right now, we can see the large number of protesters, certainly dozens if not hundreds of them, now walking back towards the city. So they're moving away from you, destination unknown. But this has been going on now, it started at 10 o'clock. It's been going on the best part of 6 hours, unfettered, potentially.
That's right. Yep. Marching to various locations to the city. We had the CFMEU headquarters, we had Flinders Street, we had Parliament. Right throughout the city throughout the day, and then as we saw a couple of hours ago, they headed south to Montague Street and then occupied the Westgate heading out, and then have come back in. But as we've been trying to understand what's been motivating them in terms of the cause, it's almost impossible to understand where they want to head to or what the cause, what the point of their movements are today in terms of where they want to go. Is there an end location that they're planning to arrive at?
Some of us who are old enough to remember the union protests of the 1990s, often violent, but the message was always clear and evident. Yes, there was sometimes some anger towards the media, but the message was never lost, and it seems their message now has been lost in thuggery and just willful behaviour.
Mike, as I say, what we are witnessing here today is anger, it is hate, it's some of the ugliest behaviour you'd ever want to see. So it's making it very hard to understand and to come to terms with, if they have a point, what that point is.
Yeah, and again, we're seeing another shot now, it looks like from maybe one of the overpasses of this crowd walking back into the city, inbound on the Westgate freeway after being on top of the Westgate Bridge for quite a period of time. We can see the traffic are going outbound, seem to be moving right now. Stay put, Cam. Stay safe. We're going to go back to Cassie Zerbos, who's outside the CFMEU headquarters. Cassie, what's happening there?
Well, Mike, at the moment there is a sense of calm, but this is where it all started this morning when hundreds of protesters gathered here outside the CFMEU building at around 10 o'clock this morning. They quickly took over Melbourne CBD, protesting against mandatory vaccinations and the end of lockdown. It became a game of cat and mouse. Police were seen arm in arm trying to stop these demonstrators taking over our city, but they marched through some of our most iconic streets, from State Parliament to Flinders Street. They completely took over and it turned violent. Our very own reporter Paul Dowsley was attacked several times live on air. The first time he was tackled, the second he had a bottle thrown to his head. But when will this end? This has been going on for 6 hours now, Mike, and people I have spoken to today say they won't stop until their voices are heard.
I'm not sure whether Cassie took her earpiece out there. Can you still hear me, Cassie? No, she took her earpiece out there. We were now seeing those protesters heading back towards the city, maybe back towards the CFMEU. Have we still got Cambo there? Cam, any sign of change there?
Police have actually are in the process of making an arrest here. This gentleman was in the car park here, which is behind the police lines that are in place for this action here. But as you can see, there's been at least 4 police that are now on top of this man. He's trying to speak to them, make whatever point it is. I'm not sure. I can't hear from here. But they were quick to grab this fella and take him to ground, and it looks like obviously making an arrest.
Yeah, we're going to stay with him for a second. Again, we haven't seen many arrests, Cam, have we? That we know of.
No, as I say, I haven't seen anything, an arrest yet to this point. He's,
He's trying to say
All right,
something.
looks like he's willing to cooperate to a degree. He's getting up off the
He
ground.
might not have a choice right now, I would suspect.
No. But as we say, these are the plainclothes police who are part of this action today in terms of trying to deal with this situation. So they've obviously had concerns about what this bloke was doing prior to making this arrest.
Yeah, and he's not too happy about it. His day of protesting obviously has come to an end. I think we have the leader of the opposition, Matthew Guy, standing by. Is that right? Matthew Guy is there? Mr. Guy, thank you for joining us. Your reaction to what we've seen today and also yesterday?
Well, it's disgraceful scenes, and then this is time for political leadership to stand up and say to these people, go home, stop behaving in this way, do the right thing, stop fighting with police, stop turning our streets into what appears to be a war zone. This is not Victoria. We do not support this behaviour. We do not support violence on our streets. No Victorian does. Reasonable Victorians want to get through this in a sensible and reasonable and measured way. That's what political leadership is about today. And we shouldn't be in hiding. We should be out there saying this. These people get the message that our state does not support them.
Do you support mandatory vaccinations in the construction industry?
No, it's not needed if we have rapid testing, and I've said that rapid testing is what's important in our construction industry. Then we can deal with them on a case-by-case basis. That's what's being done and being planned in other states, and I support that. That's in line with National Cabinet guidelines. What is important is that we get those vaccinations in mandatory ways through those aged care, primary health care systems, where people are in contact with our most vulnerable Victorians. When we get to 70 and 80%, and that's on the cards in a month and a half or so, then we start to reach, by Western world standards, a full vaccination rate. That's very important.
Yeah, but I'll just pick you up on you're not supporting the mandatory vaccinations. We are seeing infections run wild on building sites, 400 and counting. 186 construction sites have had some form of infection. They've been given a chance to comply. Surely now they don't have a choice, and the only way to give such an important part of our economy, one of the drivers of our economy, as you well know, a chance to stay open and stay functioning, they surely have to have rules now enforced on them. They've been warned.
Mike, this is exactly the same as other states. It's how New South Wales would be conducting it. We've got tradies, for instance, in Ringwood and other places, in Melbourne, in Werribee, who are the victims of having the whole industry shut down in the state. That's not needed. It can be done in another way. It can be done rather than in just 4 or 5 days over a staged period, as is being done in other states. So we should be looking at New South Wales, for instance, which has done this on a local government area basis, not on a drop-dead basis as in Victoria. There are ways to do it sensibly and respectfully and productively. When we get to our vaccination rates, which I support, of 70 to 80% in the National Cabinet guidelines, keeping to the National Cabinet plan is what is so important. That is what we should be doing. Just
as we talk, a reminder that we're looking at live pictures of these protesters now coming back towards the city on the Westgate freeway. You say that the rapid testing is the answer. I look at this mob. They don't look compliant. They've been protesting about the lack of being able to take tea breaks. I think a lot of Victorians would be saying enough is enough. You know, so many Victorians are out there without jobs, without incomes, with kids at home. Surely you would say enough is enough. You've had your chance to comply. Now, if you want a job, you've got to get the jab.
Well, I certainly don't support those protests today, and in no way would I think that Victorians would support them either, and certainly I don't. The people I do support and feel for are those tradies who have done the right thing, who have gone off their own bat, vaccinated, trying to get work as they would, who will miss out on work for the next 2 weeks because the industry's been shut down. And what I say to those people today on a voluntary common sense basis is do the right thing and go and get vaccinated. I have. I know my family has. I support people who do. It's the right thing to do. We're going to get to 70% soon. We'll soon after that get to 80%. That's the right thing to do. All Victorians should today take some political leadership on board, which is get vaccinated, do the right thing, stop fighting with police, and these people should go home.
Yeah, we haven't seen the Premier today. You've been quick to jump on that, I know. And it's a question I keep asking you, but it's a favourite of mine. If you were the Premier today, what would you do?
Well, Mike, I would be doing exactly what I'm doing now, and that is sending political message to the whole state. And that is the only way to get through this COVID challenge is through common sense, settling down, having a plan in front of us that we understand, and that involves vaccination, that involves not people taking to the street and fighting with police, that involves no more curfew, but it does involve, as I said, those National Cabinet vaccination targets and guidelines. Stick to the rules. I understand people are frustrated. Stick to the rules. They are important. And when we get to the vaccination targets, we then have a different path ahead of us. But those rules are important.
Sitting around singing Kumbaya sounds pretty good, but these guys, mostly men, they're not listening to common sense. They are believing in conspiracy theories.
I understand that.
Surely, again, time is now for tough talk and action.
Yep, and that's why I trust entirely the actions of the Victoria Police. I trust their judgment, and I trust that they would do the right thing to keep us safe. I trust them. I saw them at the Parliament today, and they did a fantastic job, and I support whatever measures the Victoria Police need to do to keep us safe in circumstances like you're seeing on the Westgate Bridge, because that kind of chaos we do not support here in Victoria.
We all agree on that. State Opposition Leader Matthew Guy, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go back to Cambo, who is on the Westgate Freeway for an update. Cam.
Mike, happy to say some order has been restored to this particular location. We can see that the mob are still on foot heading towards the city on the inbound lanes of the Westgate at the moment. We can see that traffic has resumed in the outbound lanes too. So, as I said, some normality in terms of on-ramp traffic getting onto the Westgate here at this spot. Okay, but still a significant number of police at this location. They're still trying to process that fellow we saw who was getting arrested before. He did resist a bit more on the way back to that police vehicle over there, where they're trying to process him there. Significant numbers of uniformed police here too, Mike. But as I say, compared to what we had going at about half an hour ago, very much a calm situation here on the Westgate.
Well, that's some good news. Cambo, thank you. Rebecca Casson, CEO of Master Builders Victoria, joins us now. A lot has happened in the past 24 hours, Rebecca. Firstly, what do you make of the protests yesterday and then today?
Look, we absolutely condemn those actions of those rioters. They do not represent our industry, and nor do they speak for our workforce. We have fought tirelessly since the beginning of this pandemic to keep our industry safe and open. And it's absolutely vital that people in our industry realise that there's an obligation to continue to work. And with that comes significant responsibilities. And it's really disappointing to see that that minority hasn't taken this obligation seriously, especially when there are so many others that have lost their jobs or not able to work as a result.
Do you think shutting down the entire industry, or at least the ones that are in lockdown, for 2 weeks is a fair move?
Look, we do understand the position that the government is in, but we can also see the frustration that one day after announcing the roadmap to COVID normal, our industry is being shut down. But let me be really clear about this. The announcement is very disappointing for our industry. It's an absolutely bitter blow for the vast majority of the building and construction industry businesses that have been doing the right thing for the past 18 months.
50% of sites that were inspected failed the compliance test. You've been warned.
That's right. Our industry was put on notice last week. We did support the enforcement measures being undertaken by the Victorian State Government. And we've been in constant contact with the Victorian Government during the recent increase in outbreaks across construction. And it's absolutely vital. We've made this clear. It's vital that those that are not doing the right thing, that they are held to account. They do not represent our entire industry.
Does your organisation support mandatory vaccination?
Look, the government has given our industry some very specific targets about COVID vaccinations, and they've now given us the tools to be able to reach those targets. Without mandatory vaccinations, it's extremely challenging for employers to get their employees back to work. And that's why Master Builders Victoria has absolutely supported vaccination because it provides protection to our workforce.
Rebecca, last week we saw some protests over tea rooms. Do you understand that people who are sitting at home watching this, who aren't working, aren't getting a salary, are really angry about what they're seeing in the construction industry and certainly on the streets right now?
Look, we understand that, and it's more than tea rooms, though. Our industry's continued operation has been a very significant reason why our state's economy is not declining. And building and construction is absolutely critical to our state's economy. We are the largest full-time employer in Victoria. We employ more than 300,000 Victorians and directly, and many more indirectly. So there will be lots of people, for example, in the CBD today and the next few days that will struggle primarily because their businesses come from the building and construction industry.
Rebecca Casson from Master Builders Victoria, thank you very much for your time.
Certainly a pleasure.
Now, if you've just joined us, tensions have flared in the city today with protesters demonstrating throughout the city and now have been blocking the Westgate Freeway. We're going to take a live shot from our chopper, which is going to show those protesters. They were on top of the Westgate Bridge for quite a while, maybe half an hour, completely blocking the bridge. They are now appear to be walking back to the city on inbound streets. They managed to outmaneuver police who were waiting for them. There was one arrest that we saw. Let's go now to Treasurer. No, we're just waiting for the Treasurer and Industrial Relations Minister Tim Pallas to join us. But as you can see there, there's still seemingly hundreds of protesters. Quite some dangerous scenes when we saw them first get onto the Westgate Freeway about 2 hours ago. Cars obviously were travelling at speed and several had to swerve around them. We saw a number of cars attacked. In fairness, we saw a number of cars pull over and pull over in support. And they continued to block both lanes of the Westgate Freeway for quite some time, now heading back into the city. We're going to take a break now before we continue our special coverage of the protests in the city.
This is what we live for. This is what we do. We do the impossible. Oh, no.
Impossible risks, impossible timeframes.
Anything, anywhere, anytime. That is how it is done. Salvage Squad style.
The brand new Aussie season tonight on Mate.
Out on the patio, we'd sit, and the humidity we'd breathe. We'd watch the lightning crack over cane fields, laugh and think, this is Australia. This is Australia.
Colorbond, made by Australia.
No rush, mate. It's only the first. Welcome back. Looks like the women are
dominating again. Sure does.
All for Rachel King.
I hope you put your same game on. Steve. It all comes down to this.
Play everywhere, Australia. Tab. Long may we play.
This one's for the parent, enjoying a moment of peace and quiet away from the kids by locking themselves in the bathroom. You've compromised enough. Pepsi Max. No sugar, no compromise.
If you've been injured at work, on the road or in a public place, your normal life can suddenly stop. Check if you have a claim for compensation online in minutes so you can start again. With Slater and Gordon, tomorrow starts today.
Got Manshake? Get expert advice on your weight loss goals at your local Terry White Chemmart. The Manshake.
And the Lady Shake.
Now 2 for $85 at Terry White Chemmart. Now that's real chemistry.
With AGL, get a great value, low-rate energy plan. Plus, save $15 off your NBN plan every month while you're an AGL energy customer. That's altogether great value. AGL.
My property portfolio is protected by Terry Shear. I wouldn't trust anyone else.
As a first-time investor, Terry Shear provides the security I need.
You've got to be with Terry Shear. It's a no-brainer.
Call Terry Shear or go online.
Now is the time to create your forever home with winning appliances and Smeg. Experience the sheer quality of a luxury kitchen at the Smeg sale. For a limited time, receive up to $2,000 cash back on Smeg Classic and Victoria collections. Hurry, offer ends Sunday, September 26. Visit us online and take a virtual showroom tour. Or speak to a product specialist.
The human relies on reliable internet and, of course, sweet savings.
Oh, I've got what you need. High-quality, award-winning fast internet with $15 off a month for your first 6 months. Yep, time to go dodo.
I've lost over 80 kilos thanks to the Manshake.
I've lost 35 kilos. I lost 25 kilos.
I lost 56 kilos.
I lost 50 kilos. It just works.
Save 25% off today at themanshake.com.au.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the chaos that has descended on our city today and also yesterday, with protesters taking maybe about 6 hours across the city, and we're seeing a live shot from our chopper. The protesters still on the Westgate Freeway. See some of them jumping the fence there. They have been there on the Westgate Freeway interrupting traffic for the better part of 2 hours. They actually marched to the top of the Westgate Freeway, stayed there for quite some time and turned around. They managed to dodge a heavy police presence that were blocking parts of the Westgate Freeway. We understand they're now heading back into the city. We don't know where they're heading to. Earlier in the day, they started off outside the CFMEU headquarters, but were met with a large number of police, including the riot squad and the mounted police. They were forced then to march towards the state parliament. They were calling for the resignation of the Premier. They were turned around again by a large force of police that were protecting the state parliament. They then went to Trades Hall and marched back to the Westgate Freeway. Some very dangerous scenes there as they went on to the Westgate Freeway. Also, our reporter Paul Dowsley, who was covering the the protest on the street. This is probably close to a riot. He was attacked, thrown into a headlock. To be fair, some other protesters helped him get out of that, but then he was sprayed. He and his cameraman Rick were sprayed, you can see it shortly, with what they at the time thought was water. Turns out it was urine, and obviously a cowardly act. That's only the first time that Paul was attacked. We've also seen a number of arrests near the Westgate Freeway. Here's a shot of one of the protesters that we understand was arrested. You can see police using capsicum spray as they try to chase some protesters. A man there on the ground, perhaps suffering the after effects of being sprayed with capsicum spray. We haven't seen a lot of arrests, not to say there haven't been a lot, but so far we haven't seen a lot of arrests. All of this forgets the pandemic that we are in the middle of. Daily infections have jumped above 600 for the first time in 13 months. There are now 6,000 active cases here in Victoria, and sadly a woman in her 70s from the Hume area has died, and that's where cases are again exploding. Of today's 603 new cases, 242 are in Hume, 53 in Whittlesea and 56 in Moreland. The surge in cases means pressure on our hospitals is mounting.
I'm telling you, it is a matter of urgency. 3 out of 241 people in hospital fully vaccinated. All of the rest not completely vaccinated. If you are completely vaccinated, you are protecting yourself from that risk of being in hospital and very much from the risk of dying and the risk of being in intensive care.
Brett Sutton there. There are 241 patients in hospital. That's up 36 from yesterday. 60 patients are now in intensive care. 39 of those are on ventilators. And there's been a major breakthrough in the battle to protect children from COVID. Pharmaceutical giant Pfizer declaring its vaccine is safe and effective for 5 to 11-year-olds. The drug company will now apply for emergency authorisation in the United States with the aim of rolling the jab out to kids as young as 5 within weeks. Applications to European and British regulators are expected to follow pretty quickly, which means Australia may not be far behind them. Let's go to Sydney now, and authorities there have signed off on a so-called friends bubble that allows 3 people under 18 to meet up indoors just in time for the school holidays. All children must live within 5 kilometres of each other, and supervising adults must be fully vaccinated. Byron Bay is going back into lockdown after a positive person visited the region and sparked a new outbreak.
It will be initially for 7 days, and it'll be reviewed. Public Health will be out encouraging, obviously, testing. And I certainly, as Health Minister, encourage everybody in those areas to take this very seriously.
There's 1,022 new cases in New South Wales today and, sadly, 10 deaths. We're going to go back to a live picture. It's live stream. This is being done by the protesters themselves as they walk along. It's a bit jumpy, as we can see, but it shows where they are in relation to the city. Again, they've been on the Westgate Freeway and also on top of the Westgate Bridge for quite a time now, and we've heard that several people who are in need of dire medical attention have been caught in the traffic chaos that's been caused by these protests. And in fact, it looks like they are now getting off the Westgate Freeway. We don't know their final destination, but of course we will be keeping on top of their movements throughout the hour. There's growing frustration among many tradies who are pro-vaccination, now forced to shut down for 2 weeks. Electrician and Director of BREC, Luke Serdar, joins us now. Luke, thank you for joining us. It's important to point out that the industry is not represented by what's happened over the past couple of days. What do you make of the protesting, the violence that we've seen in the past 24 hours?
It's annoying. It's a pain in the butt, really. We're lucky enough to be relatively busy at the moment, and we just want to get on with things. I'm not painting with that brush at all. It's scary, really. It definitely doesn't represent everybody in this industry, put it that way.
How have your staff reacted to the mandate that they must get vaccinated? Has there been any issues?
Not at all. No, we were all quite proud to be vaccinated. All of our staff members either have the first or both jabs done already.
How does it make you feel right now that you're being forced to shut down because of the actions of a few?
It's quite stressful. If we can't work, we can't invoice. We can't pay our guys, and we also can't pay our creditors. We supply a lot of materials for sites, and pressing pause on having the ability to install those parts means we can't charge for those parts. And now we've forced to bankroll all of that stuff. And the more jobs you have on your books, the bigger that bill is going to be. So it is quite financially stressful and stressful for our amazing staff.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very stressful. The government said today close to 50% of site inspections were not compliant. What are you seeing on work sites? Is that indicative of what you're seeing?
Not really. We're lucky enough to work for builders who only need to manage, say, 1, 2 or up to 5 projects per year. So maybe that's just, an easier workload to manage with the sign-ins, with having an enforcer on site, making sure that everyone's keeping safe and wearing a mask. Perhaps that 50% of what was audited, I doubt it was every single site in Victoria that was audited.
Well, it's good to get your perspective to point out that the industry is certainly not represented by what we've seen on the streets in the past couple of days. Luke Serdar from BREC, we appreciate your time and good luck.
Thank you very much, Mike. Take care.
Treasurer and Industrial Relations Minister Tim Pallas joins us now. Tim, surely you would have expected this kind of outrage when you shut down the construction late last night.
Well, in fact, Mike, no. We'd spoken to the union movement, we'd spoken to the representatives of the workforce, we'd spoken, of course, to representatives of business. And they, like everybody else, I think, in the rest of the state, are entirely disconcerted by a course of conduct that is, quite frankly, abhorrent. It's behaviour that puts the entire community at risk. It's behaviour that is really akin to cutting off your nose to spite your face, and all you get is a lot of spite and not much nose. In practical terms, what is happening here is a small and unrepresentative group. Yes, there are some representatives, some people employed in the building and construction industry, but a heck of a lot more who are not part of the industry. There's probably a lot of people who have been marinating in QAnon conspiracy theories who are putting at risk what the vast majority of the people of Victoria have been saying needs to happen. That is, we all recognise we have to make the sacrifices to keep the community safe and to get vaccinated. And we know that the vaccinations that are occurring, we're nearly at 75% first vaccinated of the population 16 and above, which gives us a clear indication that majority of the Victorian people have spoken and that they have no truck for behaviour that puts workers, that puts union officials, that puts the community, that puts the police and journalists at risk by this ridiculous and undisciplined behaviour.
You say undisciplined, I call it violent, but we're seeing these pictures as we're talking to you live of the live stream by the protesters themselves heading back into the city. What was the final straw? What was the final straw that led you and your government to last night suddenly shut down the industry for 2 weeks? Was it the protests themselves?
Well, it was a number of things. Of course, there were a series of stoppages in a number of inner city construction sites that were a problem because they were a direct refusal to adhere to Chief Health Officer orders around crib rooms and matters associated with that. But then people stopping on city roads. Then, of course, the advice we got from the authorised officers who'd been doing the workplace safety blitz that showed us that almost 50% of the sites inspected right across the city, right across the state, were failing to adhere to adequate safety measures. And of course, today we hear that we have hundreds of infections being amplified out of building and construction sites. I think it was apparent that we needed to reset and restart this industry to make sure that it could continue with its permitted worker status, a status that the government has sought to assure and provide, a status that, of course, many other workers in the state have not had throughout the last 18 months of the trials and the tribulations that the Victorian people have had to put up with. So we wanted to preserve that right and the integrity of their capacity to work. It seems that these protesters, without much of an agenda or any clear representation or authority, have decided to try to subvert those efforts. That is nothing short of tantamount to a deliberate attempt to sabotage the government and the community's efforts to date.
Were you too slow to act, Tim? Because we've seen now 400 infections that are linked to construction sites, the construction industry. If this was about compliance, then surely this crackdown, shutting down the industry, should have taken place weeks ago, and perhaps we may have not had as much spread as we're seeing now.
Well, Mike, I suppose that ultimately falls down to the fact that the government takes the advice of our health authorities. What we were seeing is the virus was spreading in the north and the western suburbs of metropolitan Melbourne. As it became apparent, a lot of the amplification points were in building and construction sites. And the practical consequence of that was when we received advice from the Chief Health Officer about how we needed to respond, we took that action immediately. As it transpired, the action that we took, the authorised officers' safety blitz, the restriction in terms of interaction on site, didn't resolve the issues because ultimately there was disobedience to those Chief Health Officer orders and perhaps more worryingly a continued demonstration of spread of the virus in those suburbs. So the government had no choice but to act, and we've always, as we've always said, we will act consistent with the Chief Health Officer's advice. We will be led by the science. We won't simply have a knee-jerk reaction, but it is clear that the action that we needed to take was to shut down and reset this industry, not only just for the safety of workers in this industry, but for their families at home, for their communities, and ultimately for the effort that every Victorian has put trying to get us to a state where we can ultimately manage this virus and get to the community having the confidence that we can continue to operate and open up as we go forward.
Tim, we appreciate you joining us, but where's the Premier? We haven't seen him today. Surely he should be front and centre.
I think, Mike, you'll find that the Premier will continue to do what the Premier does, and that is appear whenever the community needs him.
But if they don't need him now, when?
Mike.
I mean, Tim, if they don't need him now, when? Surely he should be front and centre, calling from calm, condemning the actions of this mob that have been running around the streets today. If he's not needed front and centre now, then when?
Well, the Premier is a much more eloquent person than me, and I'm sure he'll be saying exactly that, as he has over the last few days. But I'll make the point that I am the Minister for Industrial Relations, and I have the responsibility around the implementation of the Industrial Relations Framework. Perhaps it might be useful that people had the opportunity to speak to me and the Health Minister, and that's exactly what they've got. You'll get the Premier, don't worry. He's never afraid to make himself available and talk to Victorians, and I'm sure that will happen as soon as possible. But I thought it would be important that, of course, the community get to speak to the man responsible for the Industrial Relations Framework, and that's me.
Yeah, no, and again, we appreciate it. But has this government lost control of the city? I mean, if another country would be looking at these scenes and what's going on, they'd be thinking, all hell has broken loose in Melbourne.
Oh, well, look, Mike, I think we do need to contextualise it. Protests are a part and parcel of liberal democracies, but importantly, what we've seen here is behaviour that goes beyond the pale. I accept that. What we have seen is not only civil disobedience, we've seen effectively violence as people have wandered around the city. The government is committed, the Police Minister is committed, and the Police Commissioner are committed to making sure that appropriate order is restored, but we cannot be dissuaded by what is a very marginal group who are essentially trying to undermine our health response. We have to remain focused, and we have to get to the point where the national roadmap says we should be. That is making sure that people are vaccinated and that the safety of the community is assured as we do that.
If you can put your Treasurer hat back on for a second, this is the last thing this economy needed, right? To have such an important industry shut down, even if it's just for 2 weeks.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I won't sugarcoat it for you, Mike. I would much prefer this industry to continue to operate and to operate safely. The fact is, it wasn't operating safely. And look, we can't deny the material circumstances that confront us. We have to act in order to preserve public health and public safety. And that's exactly what we've done. Yes, I'd prefer this industry to operate. For goodness sake, I'd prefer to see our economy operating to its full potential. But what we have seen is if we take the action that's necessary, we have got a very resilient economy. We had the lowest level of unemployment ever recorded in this state, and we had the highest level of participation rate ever recorded in the labour market. We do need to assure business that these events are manageable and short-term, and the only way we can do that is to make sure that people whose behaviour is unacceptable have that called out and bring themselves to account for the actions that they've taken.
Treasurer and Industrial Relations Minister Tim Pellis, really appreciate your time. I know it's a busy moment.
Thanks, Mike.
We'll take a break now here on 7's special coverage. Stay with us, more in just a moment.
Three, two, one. Here we go. Live a life full of flavour. Let your life take shape. Hey. Flavor just for me. Hey.
New shapes. Flavour you can see.
Shapes.
Empower your skin to fight 3 types of wrinkles in just 4 weeks with Nivea Q10. Packed with Q10 to reduce wrinkles in 4 weeks or double your money back. Try Nivea Q10.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You can find lots of things when you book a Stays holiday house. Even each other. Your together awaits. Find it on Stays.
Space. So big so vast, so practical. This is Staria. Technology light years ahead of its time. It carries 8 humans comfortably. Windows stretch to galaxies beyond. And thanks to this, you'll always be part of the cosmos.
Subscribe today to the Herald Sun and save for months. Enjoy full digital access plus 7-day newspaper home delivery for just $1 a day for the first 6 months. Call 1-800-323-444 now.
Thanks to you, through the paper you buy at Officeworks, we're able to plant 2 native trees for every one used. That's 1 million new trees already planted. Oh, g'day, big fella. Another way we're supporting people and the planet at Officeworks.
Terry White ChemMart is now administering the AstraZeneca and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines nationally. So please book your free vaccination today. It'll help us all get back to the things we miss and love. Terry White ChemMart, that's real chemistry.
Whoa, grizzly bear. In Australia? Run, we should run.
Wait, I got this.
What? Oh, good one, Gary. Oh, it's leaving.
Chip?
You can't resist the call of Smiths.
The V8, the flat 6, the single cylinder. Amplify premium fuels clean and protect your engine so you use less fuel and do more clicks with every tank. Ampol, Australia's own.
Empower your skin to fight 3 types of wrinkles in just 4 weeks with Nivea Q10. Packed with Q10 to reduce wrinkles in 4 weeks or double your money back. Try Nivea Q10.
Domino's Everyday Value range is now 3 times as good because it's now in 3 sizes, starting from an unbelievable $3. All your favourite value range recipes now from just $3. Domino's Everyday Value range.
She's such a wonderful woman, and I don't know what I'd do without her.
And she knows that she can call me anytime, day or night, because we have that relationship. Whether it's shopping, whether it's just a bit of a chat to, over a cup of tea or coffee.
We sing along to the radio in the car,
If it's a good song, otherwise...
Whistle at the spunks on the side of the road.
You get me in trouble.
Victoria's COVID cases have jumped to the highest daily number in 13 months, with 603 new infections today. Sadly, a woman in her 70s from Hume has died, and there's now 241 in hospital with COVID. Professor Peter Collignon, infectious diseases physician at ANU, joins us now. Professor, thanks for your time. Authorities are facing backlash from a minority in the construction sector, you may have heard, over the decision to close the industry. Is this shutdown the right move, do you think?
Well, I think what's having adequate vaccinated, and we don't have that yet. We're getting there. So shutting down where they're a big part of spread or slowing down is important at where the spread's coming, which will probably often be tea rooms, not wearing masks, eye protection, inside, all those things addressed, which I presume in New South Wales, because they haven't had the issue as Victoria's.
You're chopping in and out a little bit, but we're going to stick with you. We're going to turn to children now. Pfizer says its vaccine is safe and effective for 5 to 11-year-olds. What's your take?
Well, my take is this is a press release from the Pfizer itself rather than detailed information. It's good news because it's a first step along getting a vaccine for children. But we've got to remember this is only 2,000 children, or a bit 2,000 children. It's looking at their antibody response rather than how well it protects them from infection, and also still small numbers of children. If we look at teenagers, for instance, they can get a condition called myocarditis, but they had to look at tens of thousands of children before they saw that. So this is a first step, but a preliminary step, and we need a lot more data to make sure in children who have the lowest risk of getting complications from COVID, that the vaccine not only works at preventing them getting infections, rather than what we see in the test tube, so to speak, but also that it is safe when we roll it out to much larger numbers of children.
So from that, I take it we're going to be some time away before we see younger children, aged 5 and above, given this vaccine.
Well, I think unless they're really exceptional at risk, we really need to see more data. And we're still in a very good position in Australia. We're coming into summer where transmission will be less. We need to actually make sure we see the data from countries like the US, from Europe, etc., where there's a lot more spread. I'd like to see data, real-world data in children there before we recommend children under the age of 12 getting vaccine here, because this is only a preliminary first step. We need really a lot more safety and efficacy data before we roll it out to millions of children.
Professor Peter Collingham, really appreciate you joining us on this very busy day.
Thank you.
We're going to return now to a live chopper shot showing the protesters and the fact that they now appear to be moving back into the city after spending more than 2 hours on the Westgate Freeway and also, as we've said, the Westgate Bridge itself. They were up there for at least half an hour. Hard to tell from these pictures of where they are, but they are, in fact, moving back into the city. This is the live stream from the protesters themselves. It's a bit jumpy, but you'll bear with us. Again, my eyesight's not good enough to pick up where exactly this is, but they are now back in the city. Their destination, again, unknown. They have led police on a game of cat and mouse throughout the day. We are going to take a break now here on 7's special coverage. We'll be right back shortly.
Nobody knows me here.
Letting you go actually be the one to give you away. You ready?
I think so.
See, I know I'm fine here all on my own. All of my friends,
I didn't find true love. It found me.
but all of my friends are back home.
The wedding all of Australia is invited to on 7.
When you go carbon neutral with Energy Australia, we cancel out carbon emissions from every... by buying offset units from climate action projects that do good for the planet. That's a bit of good with every... Better yet, you can go carbon neutral at home for no extra cost. Join the largest carbon offsetting program of any energy retailer in Australia. Go carbon neutral with Energy Australia today. Energy with a bit of good.
And there is only one...
I'm alive. Just kidding. I'm dead inside, emotionally. But that's neither here nor there. There's still only one cure for hungry, thirsty, and that's oak. With its full strength and full taste, it's full on. Oh, oak. Kill hungry, thirsty, dead.
Subscribe today to the Herald Sun and save for months. Enjoy full digital access plus 7-day newspaper home delivery for just $1 a day for the first 6 months. Call 1800 323 444 now.
This one's for all the legends knocking off from site at 3 p.m. but had to get out of bed at 4 a.m. You've compromised enough. Pepsi Max. No sugar, no compromise.
Shell V-Power is formulated to defend your engine against gunk, corrosion, wear and friction. Fuel the feeling of unbeatable protection with Shell V-Power.
Terry Shear, Australia's leading landlord insurance specialist, provides the cover you need for your property and rental income.
My property portfolio is protected by Terry Shear. I wouldn't trust anyone else.
Call Terry Shear or go online.
What makes Nature's Way adult Vita Gummies seriously good? Is it their 99% sugar-free Vita Gummies? Or because they're a great alternative to swallowing tablets? For your daily health boost, choose Nature's Way adult Vita Gummies. They're seriously good.
I think that I'll keep loving you way past 65. We made a language for us two, we don't need to describe. Every time you call on me, I drop what I do. You are my best friend and we've got some things to do.
Only here at the Victorian Spring Racing Carnival do we examine all horses before the carnival's biggest races.
and scan every horse before the Melbourne Cup to prevent injuries. Only Here has the off-the-track program supported retired racehorses since 2012. And do we reset careers for the horses that need it most? Only Here do we cheer like this. That's because there's nothing else, nowhere else, like the Victorian Spring Racing Carnival.
We always thought Valia provided a feel-good start to the day. Then we discovered its special probiotics are proven to boost digestion and immunity. All in a deliciously creamy yogurt. Valia naturally boosts digestion and immunity.
Subscribe today to the Herald Sun and save for months. Enjoy full digital access plus 7-day newspaper home delivery for just $1 a day for the first 6 months. Call 1-800-323-444 now.
The super nerd is flying high, but can one man bring him crashing back to Earth?
Yes! Right down to the wire.
The Chase, weekdays at 5.
Welcome back to 7's Afternoon News and our special coverage of the protest that's been going on in the city for most of the day, indeed yesterday as well. We've got with us again State Political Editor Chanel Vella. And Chanel, you've got an update on some of the chaos this protest has caused today alone.
Well, that's right. We know that speaking to emergency nurses, they say that patients haven't been able to make it to hospital because of what's been happening. Those pictures we've been seeing on the Westgate Bridge, just ambulances haven't been able to get where they need to go. We understand some of the patients have now made it to hospital, but this is going to be a problem right across the city at the moment with these constant shutdowns, just emergency vehicles not being able to get through. And how heartbreaking given the pressure on our hospitals right now. 6,000 active cases across the state and an extra 36 admissions, COVID admissions to hospital overnight.
Yeah, and we're seeing these live shots from our chopper once again. The protesters who appear to be thinning out, it seems, are now back in the city. We spoke to Tim Pellis, the Treasurer, earlier, and we asked him about where is the Premier? We haven't seen him today. Does that strike you as unusual?
Yeah, it absolutely does. We know that the Premier often only speaks on Mondays because he's usually out on Sundays as well. And we don't always hear from him on Tuesday because he has cabinet work to do, and we understand that. But given what we've seen in the city today, it does feel a little odd that we haven't heard from the Premier in some kind of form, whether it be on social media, which we know he's very active. We haven't heard anything at all from the Premier.
Yeah, Chanel Vella, you'll have much more, of course, coming up in 7 News with Peter Mitchell at 6. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a break now. We'll be back right after we return.
Where are you going?
Who's the weakest amongst the group?
You're a liability.
To me, this is the ultimate challenge. Life is not over when you turn 50.
Get off! What are you doing?
We're laying on the ground at one stage, mate.
Mate, I fell backwards, all right? Sometimes I just want someone to be strong for me.
Man, woman, it doesn't matter.
Run!
Who has the grit, who has the resilience to see it through?
What are you doing?
When the only way out is to quit, you will see their true colours.
SAS Australia, tonight, 7:30 on 7.
As bookings open for Christmas overseas travel, what you need to know, so you don't get caught out, only on Sunrise tomorrow.
3, 2, 1, here we go. Live a life full of flavor. Let your life take shape. Hey, flavor just for me. Hey.
New shapes. Flavour you can see.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You can find lots of things when you book a Stays holiday house. Even each other. Your together awaits. Find it on Stays.
I'll be back in a tick.
So, how many weeks have you?
13. But shh, no, I haven't told Dad yet. Dad, how did you know?
Have you heard of Amplifon?
Amplifon has been providing the latest technology in hearing aids for over 70 years. With over 300 Amplifon clinics, our audiologists will assess your hearing using our exclusive approach. Call 13MyEars to book a free hearing test. That's 13 69 32 77. Amplifon, the hearing care professionals.
Right now with NAB, enjoy a $2,000 cash bonus when you refinance your home loan. Because what is money for, if not for a home? NAB, more than money.
The air inside your home can have unseen health risks. Introducing V-Breathe Tasman, a patented technology engineered to purify and detoxify your indoor air. Breathe better, cleaner air with V-Breathe.
When you add popcorn to a movie night, it's the complete package. Just like adding carbon neutral energy to our great rates at no extra cost. Switch to Total Plan to get 15% off the electricity reference price and 26% off gas rates. Switch to Energy Australia today.
New season out now at Michael Hill.
Before the grand final, you need exclusive insider knowledge from an award-winning panel of experts. You need the front bar.
It's a bit over the top, isn't it?
Why is it so dark? Can we turn some lights on?
Where did all this smoke come from? What's going on here? Where's the voiceover guy?
With a huge list of special guests, you can't miss the Front Bar Grand Final Edition. Thursday, 8:30 on 7.
I really hope that's a smoke machine.
The super nerd is flying high.
The chaser stings.
But one man is about to bring him crashing back to Earth.
WA, the United States. I'm nervous. I got this one. He's got it. Look at him. Look at him.
Yes. Who will end this game on a high?
Right down to the wire.
The Chase, weekdays at 5.
Welcome back to rolling coverage on day 2 of Melbourne's tradie protests. Hundreds of construction workers have blocked the Westgate freeway as tensions erupt over the 2-week industry shutdown. The decision was announced last night after violent protests yesterday at the CFMEU headquarters in the city. It comes after the government announced last week only vaccinated construction workers would be allowed on work sites from this Friday. The protests started up again in the city this morning, creating traffic mayhem before moving towards the Westgate. Eventually, demonstrators had all of the traffic both in and out of the city blocked. Industry leaders say they're disappointed by the actions of what they're calling a minority.
They do not represent our industry, and nor do they speak for our workforce.
The Treasurer revealing earlier today almost 50% of worksite checks found compliance issues. Time for an update, and I welcome the relief on the weather with Jane Bunn. Jane, how's it look out there?
Oh, Mike, we are in a dry break now. There is lots of grey sky out there, but drizzly rain does come back tonight. It is cold. We began the day on 6. It only reached 13. We had lots of showers streaming through this morning, and there was snow to low levels overnight that rose back up to the Alps earlier today. Showers are streaming across the south of the state. Cloud extends into parts of the north. It was 3 degrees in Ballarat at this time yesterday. Today is still cold, but not quite as extreme. The system that brought our blast of wintry weather is now out to our northeast as a cold front and trough head out over the Tasman Sea. There's one more surge tonight as this trough moves to our south. Then tomorrow, the next high slowly comes in. So tomorrow, local frost with areas of fog in the northeast. We are drizzly on and south of the ranges. That'll clear out during the afternoon. Now, cloud does affect most of the state, all of that white that is through there, but temperatures do rise a little. So in Melbourne, it is drizzly overnight and during the morning tomorrow. Then we turn dry for the afternoon, but it does stay cloudy all the way through. And we're not cold anymore. It is rising to 17, but grey skies are overhead. That's the latest. More at 6.
OK, thanks, Jay. Thanks for your company this afternoon on what's been a very busy day. Peter Mitchell will be here at 6. I'm Mike Amor. We'll leave you with live pictures from the News Chopper. Have a good afternoon.
A little boy who disappears from Grandma's Australian backyard up the coast without there ever being a single answer. It could happen to any of us.
The new investigation into Australia's most infamous unsolved disappearance.
There's something they're not telling us.
7 will air explosive new revelations.
The crime scene wasn't preserved. I'm not going to comment about what we have and haven't done.
The evidence hidden from Australia until now.
Stamped top secret.
The unseen police interviews.
You're sitting here just lying. That causes me a concern.
The exclusive new witness interview that ties all the clues together.
If I were to ask you whether you think that he abducted William Tyrrell,
I'm 100% sure he did.
The newly discovered images that prove it all.
This was the one that got away.
And finally, William's real-life grandmother speaks out.
I want to tell people the real story.
The major event that will shock
We
Australia.
can tell you this, something the authorities didn't want you to know.
7 News investigates the disappearance of William Tyrrell on 7 and 7+. The truth comes out tonight after SAS.